Ladies and gentlemen, we are now live. Welcome to A Conversation with, and I am your humble host, Floyd Marshall Jr. And as always, I am joined by my amazing, awesome, and phenomenal co-host, Okima Timor. And today we are joined by none other than Donna Marie-Reid. Ladies and gentlemen, before I give you the the formal biography, let me just say this. I had the honor and the privilege of meeting Donna Marie on Clubhouse a few years ago, and sitting in the audience listening to her wisdom was absolutely amazing, and it just added so much to what I do now on this podcast and in everyday life in the film industry. As they say, you have two ears and one mouth, so close the one and open the other. And when Donna Marie would speak on stage, it would get very quiet because it's always phenomenal to listen to someone that absolutely knows what they're talking about. And if you were privileged enough to listen to her, you always walked away with
Oop,
something that you
did we
could
lose you,
then
Floyd?
do. No, I'm here. I'm here. Can you see me?
Now we can.
Oh, well, oh, because yeah. But as I'm saying, it was always great to listen to her on stage. So I'm just going to give you guys some background on who Donna Marie Reid is. Donna Marie DM Reid is an accomplished multi-platform TV development and talent executive recognized for her creative ingenuity and packaging. Donna Marie specializes in creative ideation, development, and production of scripted and unscripted TV for streamers, production companies, and broadcast networks. She also serves as a non exclusive creative director for corporations, leading creative vision, branding, PR, and shaping company narrative. Donna Marie is also the founder and CEO of Love Ma, the Susan Eileen Scott Foundation, a nonprofit organization dedicated to supporting single women and children in honor of her late mother. Phenomenal organization, phenomenal woman.
Thank you.
I am so happy to have you on a conversation with, once again, welcome, Miss Donna Marie-Reid.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. If I had an air horn, I'd be like, "Bum, bum, bum, bum."
Well, thank you, Floyd, for having me on. And Okima, thank you. You're already an amazing addition. Just before we went live, Floyd was saying how he was just kind of going back and forth on whether he wanted to continue with this podcast. And my head almost came off because Floyd is such a respected and trusted voice in this industry. He really has his finger on the pulse. He does the homework. He sits in the audience. He takes the notes. He does the research on top of having, experience of his own. And so I'll pop in and hear the podcast, and it's always gems being dropped. And I'm like, it's so good that he's continuing these conversations post Clubhouse because there are people that really need it. And so anytime I can come on and support the vision and what you're doing, Floyd, I'll absolutely do it. I'm glad that you're still moving forward and that you have Okima with you as a co-host. So I love her already, and I'm ready to get going into the conversation.
We are so excited to have you. I think what I love best about our show is that we give access to people that people normally may not have the free access to pick your, I hate the term pick your brain, so I usually say to pick your heart.
Oh, I love that.
Because when people pick your brain, they think that they're going to just get your like 10, 20 years of expertise for the cost of a venti Starbucks. And that's not
Talk about
you
it.
can pick my brain, but you can't pick my price because I do consult.
Oh my
But
goodness.
I love that people come on here and are able to take from the creatives that we have to your hearts to offer the intel and the information so freely and in conversation versus in these stilted kind of gatekeepy kind of fractured ways that are like nobody needs to talk in parables. This thing is real, and it's a thing, and like you can't decipher what to do in that thing if people don't give you the real information. So I'm so excited that we have you today to talk about things, especially with the state of our industry right now.
Yeah, there's a lot going on, and you said a whole word on everything you just said. I mean, from the sharing of the information and what people expect, and I think it's a give and take when there are spaces like this created to share the information, then pour back into those people who are sharing the information, whether it's following what they're doing and supporting those things, following on social media, supporting whatever initiatives or conversations they're having. I always tell people, when you show up as a guest, make sure that you're ringing the doorbell with your elbows, because you're showing up so full with what you're bringing to the table.
Mm.
You got to use an elbow. So show
Mm.
full. You can't just take. So thank
We
you
have
for the space.
No, thank you for coming. We have gotten into such a space of like microwave gratification and like information, and we're not coming always with our full cups, but always our hands out. Like I usually say, like you have two hands for a reason, one to
Right.
give, one to receive. But
Absolutely.
like the receiving really never happens if there's not some giving in play. And so
Hmm.
I love this elbow thing because it makes me think about when my mother makes me come to her house and bring her all the things, and I got to be like,
Yeah. Because you're full. You're showing up so full.
I mean, it ain't really always because I want to give, because I love my mother, but she be needing too
For
much.
sure.
But you know,
For
anyway,
sure.
Floyd, why don't you kick it off and start our conversation with the lovely DM Reed?
Well, interestingly enough, and I was having this conversation with my wife because me and Donna Marie had a very in-depth conversation yesterday. And interestingly enough, and Akima, you know this about me from being my co-host, I always write out a book full of questions.
Maybe he got 55 questions for you. We got time for 12, maybe.
But here's the thing. For some reason, yesterday I kept saying, I'm going to get to it, I'm going to get to it, and I'm going to get to it. And I never got to it. And then some things transpired that we're not going to go into. And, as I said, myself and Don Marie had a very extensive conversation last night. And when I got off the phone, I went into the other room and I said to my wife, I said, you know how I always have my questions written out? And she was like, yeah, but you were struggling with writing them out. I said, that's the way God works. I said, because everything that I wanted to ask her, I took off the table because what we're going to talk about today was so important. So sometimes the setback is the setup. Because
100%.
again, that conversation that we had last night was so enlightening. And I'm so excited because what we're going to talk about today is the industry being in such a major flux. So, Donna Marie, can you talk a little bit about that? The fact that the industry in such a major flux right now, none of the networks are buying anything, and as we were discussing last night, people are being laid off. And as a creative, how are you helping people deal with that and get ready for what's going to come on the other side? And are they developing things right now, or are they just sitting on their hands waiting? So, can you talk about that?
Yeah, and you're right. We really went in when we
Yes.
had a conversation yesterday. Can't get that raw here, but
No.
it's very real. This is a very real business. It's show business, and it is in flux, and everything's trying to stabilize. And the moment you think that it's stabilized, here comes another shakeup. Here comes another restructure. Here comes another layoff, and when that happens, I've been at the network when the layoffs happen. I survived 3 layoffs, and it is brutal.
Mhm.
Everyone's nerves are like shot. you know, you you're walking around tension filled because you don't know if the shoe is going to drop on you. A lot of times you find out the what's going to happen from the Hollywood blogs. So like Hollywood Reporter, um, Variety. It used to be called Nikki Fink, but yeah, the Hollywood Reporter. all of these resources, online resources, is where, like, when something was going on internally, we would just go online to see, okay, are layoffs coming, is something, we're like, who are these people, because how do they know? Deadline is a really good one.
Hmm.
Deadline Hollywood, that's where we would always go, like, what's going on, is there going to be a shakeup internally, are we going to be laid off? And that brings me to, like, why it's even tougher to sell in this market, because when things are in flux and everyone's trying to stabilize, it's not even really about the business of TV, though that's the underlying of it. There's still human beings behind these networks and studios and TV shows. And so they're trying to figure out what's next for them. They're trying to figure out if they're going to have a job tomorrow. They're trying to figure out, okay, restructuring is going to happen. Is that going to affect me? So what you want to do at that point is be the best executive that you possibly can. You want to have your head down, doing the work. If you got shows on the air, you want to make sure that those shows are performing really well. If you are hearing new things, and they encourage you to constantly be hearing new things. But when the restructures and stuff are going on, like, there's hardly any buying because you have to let the new team settle. Then new mandates come about, and so you can't be, buying shows. And then you have to wonder, okay, the shows that are on the development slate, are those going to go, or is the new team coming in going to get rid of those and make their own mark with new creative, which happens all the time.
I'm a
And
victim.
yeah, of which part of it? Which part?
So I produced a show on CNN called Nomad with Carlton McCoy. And season 1 did so well. It's made by Anthony Bourdain's team. This was
Nice.
after Tony had passed. And they
Wow.
were kind of trying to make him, he runs like he's a Black and Jewish, but grew up with his grandmama in Baltimore and PGC.
Okay.
But runs 6 vineyards in Napa, one of the first black master sommeliers. He's a master chef. Beautiful show, millions spent. Season 2, we knocked out season 2, beautiful. When the whitewash happened at CNN with Disney and Warner Brothers, show was already done, ready to go to season 2. They were like, no, thank you.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yep. Sorry to hear that, though. It's crushing. And you think that once they invest that much, that they're going to go forward?
It's actually cheaper for them as a coming in to not do it, because all that was spent prior to them getting there then becomes an immediate profit loss. So their margin is low.
Yes, absolutely.
And so that's the thing that we don't think about. It's like, well, why would they throw that money away? Actually, it's free money, because they get to count that now as an incoming loss as they acquire this space. So it's an immediate profit margin uptick because it's a profit loss to them on site.
Absolutely.
If they're not really invested in the culture of what they're dismissing, they're not going to miss it.
That's it. That's it.
Because
And they save a lot of,
and somebody feed Phil.
yeah.
And they were from our same company.
Wow. Yeah. It happens all the time. And they save on the PR and marketing, which can be more than the budget of the whole project. What was the film they did, Wonder Woman? Was it Wonder Woman or Catwoman?
With Gal Gadot?
I think it was the Catwoman, and they just totally shelved it.
They were almost done with it, right?
I believe they were done. Billions of dollars. And it was like, nah, because it wasn't up to standards, and they thought that it would, like, really hurt the franchise. But how do you go that far without stopping it?
But the thing is, whose standards? Because was it that it was too, unfortunately, our cries for an even playing field have been co-opted to become cries of everything that it's not. So was it to that? Or was it, so that's why it wasn't up to standard?
Yeah.
Because it wasn't fair enough?
Yeah.
I don't mean FAIR.
Y'all see what I'm doing? I'm just drinking my tea.
No, she knows what she speaks, for sure. But as you see, and as we just discussed, they can scrap a project in a heartbeat. There's
Mhm.
always an internal strategy and plan going on that you're not privy to.
Mm.
So I always tell people who are going in to pitch their show, there's a conversation that you get in the room, and then there's one that you get that
But
you're
you
not
don't
privy
get.
to, that happens behind your back. Those are the conversations that I prep my creatives for, the conversations that happen behind your back. Because as you said a little earlier, Akima, there's knowledge that we have to share that it takes so many years to acquire. And you're privileged to be in those seats. A lot of people don't get in those seats to get that knowledge,
Mhm.
but they're expecting you to know it. They're
Right.
expecting you to know it. And when you show up without it, and you're like, you thinking you just got the greatest project on the world and it's going to save their network or studio, and they're looking at you like, this will never go. And you're walking away like, oh, they're not fair, they don't get it, or it's racism, even. It's none of that. You're not prepared. You're
Right.
not prepared. And I always say, start with the end goal in mind, because he who wears the crown, he who has the gold wears the crown, period.
Mhm.
So, do you want to do their dance and borrow their money and abide by their rules? Or do you want to do it your way, raise your own capital, and do your own dance?
Both of them.
Got to pick one.
Do you?
Yeah.
I challenge. You know why I challenge that? I
Yeah,
always say I
gotta pick
challenge
one.
that. I say I challenge that because I have literally had a career where I had one foot in the machine and one foot in the culture. And so it has served me well because I happen to be a multi-hyphenate that works across platform. So
Mhm.
I produce and direct both commercial and branded, scripted, unscripted, culinary. Like I've been fortunate enough to collect a lot of colors in my painter's box. So I don't have to, for me, I haven't had to necessarily pick. When one wasn't functioning, I went to the other one.
But not at the same time, though, right?
No. So, well,
And that's my point. That's my point.
what's happening? Because I've definitely been known to be working on a network show, but then make a commercial on the side. Like it depends
Same.
on.
Same. Same.
But no,
You just have to know what dance you're at.
being able to compartmentalize yourself, your focus,
Absolutely.
your skill set, your lane. Because as a director, when I'm in as a producer, it's not my job to direct the thing. It's my job
There
to
you go.
bolster the vision of the director that I'm serving, because a producer is a position of servitude.
Yeah.
And as a director, it's my job to be in a space of leadership, but not dictatorship, because film is a team sport. So it's like it's being able to compartmentalize yourself. But I understand what you're saying now.
Mhm.
Yes, you do have to pick where you're playing at the moment you're picking up the bat to go take the swing. Like you have to know
Absolutely. With
what's
that
happening
particular
where you are.
project, you can't go about it
Right.
one. You can't do both at the same time.
And you have to
With
know
that
that when
project.
it's not yours.
Yeah.
When I work on a network project, if I didn't bring that project to network, even if I like down in the valley, I literally developed that from Nico's concept to air with Nico, 4 stars. However, I was still limited in what my credits would be, how I was showing up on screen,
100%.
all of those things, because I did not have the name that our showrunner and our EPs had.
100%. Yeah.
And so I sucked that up because I knew that those were nothing but seeds being dropped into my basket so I can make a bloom later where y'all ain't gonna tell me what I'm not.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So let me
Absolutely.
ask you.
But when
so let
you're
me
on
ask you-
their dance floor, you have to do that dance.
Absolutely. And
Absolutely.
sometimes you got sometimes you got 2-step for them.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna call for y'all so I can run for me.
And that's it. That's my only point. You can't, whatever project you're taking out the door, whatever one you're giving birth to, you have to figure out, am I doing this independently or am I doing this through a distributor? And
Right.
then that distributor, do they align with my vision? Is this the right home? Because you don't want to, find a home and you guys aren't creative and there's no synergy. I mean, creative synergy, and then you're butting heads. That's not the right home. They're not going to champion your creative internally, and then it's not going to go. So it's all about finding that right synergy, finding if it's a brand that speaks to you and will elevate your voice in the way that you need it to. And once you do that, you have a better chance of selling your show. It's still a tough market, but you have an even better chance of selling your show.
So let me ask you this, with everything that the both of you just so phenomenally and eloquently talked about, what I kept hearing was flexibility and pivoting. So, Donna Marie, is that one of the things that you teach your creatives when they're coming to you and they may run into a situation where they decide that the hill they're going to die on is not a hill worth holding? So, how do you talk to your creatives to have them navigate this thing and say, okay, well, that's not the prize, but this is. So how do you get your creatives to be more flexible, as business people?
Mm-hmm. When I'm meeting with creatives, the first thing I always ask is, what do you want to say? Where are you at in life? Where is your head? Why are you championing this particular project? Because if we're not right internally, if we don't have our stuff together, if we're not able to pivot and be flexible in our thinking and in our way as people, you're going to be dead in the water in all that you do when you need to practice that skill set. And I think that you have to have that in all that you do. So if the person is a naturally stubborn person that doesn't like to be told what to do, they're going to have a tough time selling, but they're going to think it's everything else but them. But when people would pitch us, if we offered a note in the room and they were like, oh, but no, it's this. No, see, it's got to be this. We're like, oh, okay.
You just lost it.
But you just lost, like, who wants to deal with that? If we buy this show, then this is what we're going to have to deal with. Like, who wants to, we actually want someone who wants to stand up for the vision and the integrity of their show. Mm-hmm. We don't want you to be a pushover. We want you to have an opinion, but we also, when we know what's best for our brand that you pitched to and that we bought, you licensed to us, now you have to do our dance. When we're giving you notes, we're trying to see if it can be branded towards us. We're trying to see if it could fit our brand, and you're reluctant, then we're not going to push that. We're not going to say, but no, you got to, but we're trying to help. It's going to be like, oh, okay. We're checking out everything, your demeanor, how you are with your team. Do we want to go out and have dinner with you? Do we want to grab a coffee? Would we even want to go on a hike with you? All of those things are being factored in. And so if you don't come in clearly knowing your show inside and out, knowing not just the idea of it, but how it actually works. If you don't come in knowing that, that's not a good thing either, because if they start giving you more notes and knowing more about your show than you, that's a turn off for them as well. They want you to teach them about the show, not them teach you about the show or tell you what's missing. You want to come in full. But if they again say, because right now I'm currently out to market, I'm pitching several shows. And
several?
Yeah, I'm pitching several. And so I understand where sometimes you got that one foot in corporate and one you an independent. I'm doing both. So I understand, but you can't do one project doing, you know what I'm saying?
Right. No, one project has to go. So one has to go.
Yeah. And then you have to march to the beat of whatever drum that project is going in, but yeah, it's no one way. Like, for you to be fluid and work, you have to be able to, do the corporate dance, do the indie dance. You got to, be able to get it wherever you can get it from.
Can I ask you? Yeah. So for those that don't understand the idea of how sometimes this all kind of works, what do you say to the filmmaker that has gone in, had a great thing, pitched, and it's just not the thing for that moment? And for me, I always say, even if I don't win the pitch, I want to put the room, right? Because that's how I got the Stars gig. I had a general with them. They didn't have anything to offer me at the time. They called me for something else. I showed up as my best self, took a role that was a little lower than what I really wanted. And then I got to do what I really got to do and show them what I could do, right? So it's like, what do you say to that filmmaker that's so despondent because they didn't their pitch wasn't taken or their show wasn't purchased, but they went in and unbeknownst to them booked the room. Because I think we forget that. I think we forget that if they don't take us today, then we can surely get a phone call tomorrow.
100%. 100%. I'm currently in a deal with NBC Universal, and I'm working with creatives on developing their next big franchise hit. And with one creative, I just had this conversation with them yesterday when we're just going over different techniques. This creative is so amazing, by the way, just very, I mean, you understand why he's made it this far in the development process with the network and the studio. But one thing we were going over was like, this is an opportunity to not just get this show made and sold. This is an opportunity to win the affection of this network, of the studio, which would bring more opportunity. Exactly what you just said. And so what I tell people, like the first thing, and this is why I go back to you as a person before I even talk about your creative and what you want to do with it, because I'm never a person that's going to say it's their fault first. I'm going to sit back. I'm going to assess what could we have done differently? What was the feedback in the notes? What was said in body language that wasn't said verbally? You got to know cues, when to shut up, when they want to interject and say something, when they're needing more. And for me, it's always a chance to get better. Like if we're waiting, then I start saying, okay, what can we do to brand the deck even more? So when we reach out, it's not just a, hey, what's going on? It's, hey, you know what we were thinking when we had the pitch meeting and you mentioned X, Y, and Z, we went on and knocked that out so you can see what that looks like as you're still making your decision. So it gives them a little bit more fighting power when they're discussing your show and because there might be the person who heard the pitch, they think that it's perfect. They can see it being, doing 1,000 different things, but they have to convince other people. And so you have to constantly give them things to say, this is why we should be in business. So when I'm creating my pitch decks, I make it pitch proof, because a lot of times the executives at the network and the studios, they haven't really been out in the world pitching. So they don't know how to do it. So
Say that again. Say that again.
Creative for them to pitch and sell internally, 90% of the time they'll never sell it like you. They'll never bring as much passion to it as you do. So you have to make sure that lives in your deck, period. The single most important tool you can have when pitching is a sizzle reel.
A visual.
If you don't have a sizzle, a presentation deck. If you have both, you're in great shape. And I say the sizzle first because busy executives don't have time to read. They ain't got time to sit up and read through a bunch of text. If it's just a presentation deck, it better be more visual than it is text. It better be like they're flipping through a comic book or a coloring book or, some sort of, but not where it's super intense where they're reading. They just came from doing a bunch of that. They got a bunch more reading to do. Now you're going to make them do more work. They want to sit back and be entertained for a second. They want to sit back. So give them a sizzle that acclimates them. If you don't have a sizzle in that presentation, embed some videos that give them an idea or a comparison so that they can wrap their head around what you're pitching.
See, and this is when I tell filmmakers and my colleagues and my clients, this is when everybody's so up in arms about AI. And as someone who is also an actor, I totally get it. But the intention of AI, for those of us that understand it, is it's a tool. Just like CGI was a tool, just like Canva was a tool. So if you don't have the money to go shoot a proof of concept or a sizzle, then this is the moment that you can go into Sora or Canva, even if you know what I mean, or what have you, and create a visual complement to your deck so that they can understand where you're coming from. I had a really young but super just brilliant creative that had come to me about pitching something, and she didn't have the savvy with AI. But what she did was she knew how, and she didn't know, she didn't have Premiere Pro. She had iMovie. And so, you know what she did with her iMovie? She went and she got clips from her favorite things that represented what she was trying to build, and built this trailer in iMovie of all these other movies and films.
Yeah.
Put it together to say, this is the energy of what I'm looking to make.
100%.
And when I tell you, and I mean, it's a lot more commonplace now, but this young lady had done this like 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So mind blown, because nobody was really reaching into we were doing it from like decks and in still frame,
right?
We doing it in moving image.
Absolutely.
And I was so impressed and so like elated that she had utilized what she had at her fingertips, which was iMovie. The fact that she was a cinephile, so she knew what she was thinking about and found it.
Yeah.
And for the cost of the time it took her alone, and her Canva, and her Canva subscription, she had something beautiful to pitch her project.
That's it. You have all the tools in your hands and at your disposal. You just have to do the homework. You have to read up on it, learn how to do it, do it over and over and over again. Practice makes perfect.
Mm-hmm.
I actually sold a show to BET doing that very same thing, a rip reel, just taking clips from different things. All they need to do is understand what it is, and if it fits their brand, if it excites them enough, they get it enough, then they'll get behind it. And so with that particular one, it was Steve Harvey, actually. He was like, I have this idea in my head. This is what I want. This is the first thing out of the gate I want you to do, when I was head of his production company, head of development. And we put together the trailer so well that they were like, okay, we're going to do a pilot. From the pilot came together really well. We went from pilot to series, but it was all based on that reel, that was just clips from around the internet put together. So that is effective. You have tools at your disposal. AI, as you mentioned, and everyone's striking, and I understand it. I a lot of friends who are writers, and I supported them in that. I'm also on the corporate side, and so I'm also I hear what they're saying when they're introducing these AI tools. I see the money that it would save them. Of course, they would lean into it. And my thing is, we do and need to use it as a tool, not to let it get ahead of us. We have to stay ahead of it. And my thing is, work these AI tools into creative and into the contracts, but I have to man it. I have to man those AI tools. The AI tools don't replace me as a writer.
And that's what I tell people all the time. It's not here to replace human capital, as long as, because here's the thing, there's so many people that are also engaging in it in a place where they don't want to do the work. Like, it's one thing if I've come up with a log line and I know that I'm putting my thing together and I'm like, ChatGPT, how do I make this log line stronger for a network review? It will give me better, but it's taking my human capital that I have written, and it's giving me better language. And speaking of language, for those that are watching, don't miss that she just gave you some jargon. And one thing that is currency in this business is knowing the language. She said it was called a rip reel. Write it down. Now, when or you're talking to someone and you're like, I need to do this thing, and I think I'm just going to pull some clips. Now it's called a rip reel. I tell you guys every time we do the show, jargon matters, because when you can come in and speak the language, it's just like what they're trying to do now. We're looking at the erasure of language and culture and all those things. It definitely is a thing. So if you can come in and you can say, oh, well, I actually would love to put a rip reel together. They can be like, Last week, I met one of my North Star directors, and I was like, I love your waterwork. And the fact that I knew that that's what she does, and she's literally one of the only Black directors and very few Black female directors known for her waterwork and know what waterwork was. She was like, now this is like a North Star of mine. And she was like, oh, girl, reach out to me. I'll give you some of the tips of how to do it. And I was like, so I had to fix my face, because you know how you said you got a body language, and my face had My face had subtitles. And so I had to make sure, but in my mind, I was like, did she just say she gonna give me tips and hacks on how to do this thing for when I'm ready to do this thing? This lady who I've been like semi-stalking online and like love so much.
Yeah.
But when you show up with language,
That's it.
And the right energy,
that's it.
You get into the room.
Yeah, absolutely.
So she gave y'all a word.
Yeah,
word.
Absolutely. Oh, thank you. And I tell people this all the time, and you just gave a master class in the execution of that. They're like, how do I get to this person? And this. I'm like, there are no gatekeepers anymore. They're all on social media. Get to them.
Or these festivals. I met her at ABFF.
Or these festivals, yes. Or these festivals, and know things about them. But I say social media because they're posting things that mean something to them.
Yes.
And if you comment on something that means something to them,
you know what?
Floyd says this all the time.
Don't get me started on this.
Talk about the insert all the time.
I mean, that's building of a relationship. That's building rapport. And if you show up enough, especially on the posts that no one's caring about, those are the ones that I really go in on because it's less comments. They can get to it quicker, but
at least know them. At least and know them. If you're gonna, like, we had you, we invited you on the show. You were gracious enough to come here, so we made sure we knew who you were.
Yeah,
well, I knew who she was, but I get what you're saying.
I know you know what I mean. Like,
yes.
It's important that we know, that you know. Like, I got a chance to talk to Mara for like a good 10 minutes, right? We were at the same dinner randomly. Yeah. And I, aside from, like, in my mind, I'm fangirling because I'm like, it's Mara Akil, right? And we're all in love with forever and blah, blah, blah. But I told her, I said, when I knew that you were who I wanted to emulate in terms of how Black and unapologetic I grow up, I show up. It was the Being Mary Jane episode when Mary Jane walked up to that lady and said, I'm sleeping with your husband. And that lady said, and what you want me to do about that? Leave him? I said, oh, somebody Black wrote that. A Black woman wrote that. A Black woman wrote that. And she looked and she started cracking up like you did. She said, girl, you know it. And so, like, something, like, fine, you're in, and your ability to be remembered is how you can talk to them about who they are, not who you are. Let them invite you to talk to them about who you are. Start with the conversation about who they are so that they know that you know what you're talking about.
Yes. And how you can be of an assistance to them, how you can promote their journey. I mean, here's one story that someone that I met with maybe about a year ago. She was telling me how she got on to be Nick Cannon's assistant, and she still is to this day. I think she's more now, but she was stalking him online. She wanted to work with him, and she went to his website and thought his website was trash. So she built an entire website for Nick Cannon and then showed it to him and was like, this is what your website should look like. And he hired her on the spot.
See, I did that with Holland West. I did that with Holland West. Holland West Productions is run by two wonderful, really talented Black gentlemen. I wanted to work with them as a producer. I saw they were looking for someone to redo copy for them, for their site. And I went to the site and I was like, oh, yep, you need help. And I didn't ask for a dime. I redid the copy, and I saw them at a panel or something, got their information, and I sent them an email with the updated copy in the email and was like, hope this helps.
Yes.
I literally directed 2 national commercials for Holland West.
Nice.
And here's the beauty of that. There's this book that I have. It's back there somewhere. You know what? Here it is. Somebody's about to get free advertisement. The book is called Ask.
Yeah.
But in this phenomenal book, by Mark Victor Hansen and Crystal Dwyer Hansen, this is what they talk about. And this is something that I always impart to people. If you're going to ask someone for something, offer first. You never lead with the ask. You lead with the offer. You offer value. Mm-hmm. Because if you're leading with the ask, that's transactional.
Yeah.
But if you're leading with an offer, how can I help you? In what way can I make what you're doing better?
Yeah.
So by Nick Cannon's now assistant reaching out to him saying, hey, this is what I did for you as far as your website is concerned. Okima, same way. This is what I did for you. They looked at that and said, okay, so here is tangible value. So let's talk about that as far as creatives and when you're getting creatives ready for television or getting ready to sell a show. How do you talk to them about when they're sitting at these tables in these networks, the best way that they can offer maximum value so that when they get up and leave the room, everyone's sitting at that table saying, oh, we gotta land this person because we can't let them get away because we're not letting that value get away from us. So how do you go about doing that?
Understanding that your show is not about you, it's about that network.
Mm.
It's about that brand, and it's about how you can lock in more of their audience. It's about how you can help them kick the other streamers or networks butt with this particular show.
Mm.
How can your show make them competitive? So when you go in, I ask creatives what their why is, and that's super important to me. Like, why are you doing this show? Because the why has to be strong enough to withstand a lot of rejection.
Mm.
It got to sustain you through a lot of, and if it's just something you playing around with, I say find something else deeper, or like you wasting your time, because this is not the thing to just kind of see what you can do. You got to go in like like a mad scientist working on things, and so it's you have to already know what your why is, know your show inside out, and know all of that. You're doing it for the culture, you're doing it for whatever reason. But when you're talking to them, it's all about them and how and why it fits their brand and their schedule. Even like, because from my network value helps me program and do the program talk when I'm talking to them. I go into like what days and what companions they already have on the air that this new show can pair with, and how those viewers can transition right into this show, because you're always looking for a great lead in, or a lead out to a show. And so you start doing the network talk about how this show is best for their brand. You guys are, this is your mandate. This is the message that you want to put out in the world. And you make sure that your creative is doing it. So with one particular show, we're pitching 3 different production companies right now. Each deck is branded towards each production company.
Yes.
To a T.
Yes.
To a T. I want them to think they're the only ones in town we want to sell to. They're the perfect home. And because we've done the research on these production companies, they are. So the case is there. The case studies are there. The programming is there. How it aligns with your existing shows are already there. How we can build it out into a franchise is there. How this travels well is there. But being able to pivot is super important, because this particular show is standalone and it's highly repeatable, highly bingeable. And that's what people love about it. We also are hearing, and I knew when I developed it, but like they've never seen anything like it. So that's a good thing. But it could also be a hard thing because they're afraid to take chances on new things. This is why you see the same stuff repeated over and over again. So then your case has to be that much stronger. So I could see this one production company really wanting to make it work. And you can tell by the questions that they're asking. And then one said, can you arc this series out? And I know that that's not what one of the creatives wanted to do. But I always tell my team, we never say no in the room. We can have that discussion and roundtable it. But, either we're happy to have that conversation, or absolutely. Or it's a yes. It's a yes, or we're happy to have that conversation. Absolutely. For me, I'm like, we need to do whatever we need to do to sell this show. If we're pitching to them, we've already done the work to know that it's a good home for it. So sell the show, and then do your, pick and choose the hills that you die on.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've seen people hold on to things that just doesn't even matter. And they don't get across the finish line. And so many shows could be sold if you stop being so precious, if you get
Mm-hmm.
out of your own way, if you're not so stubborn. Well, this is how I've always did it. Well, I don't need to do anything more because this is all my information is here. I already know it. I build upon my knowledge every single day.
Yes.
Amen.
Every single day. I never pull anything just out of the air. I'm always researching, always looking into. Akima, I love when you said that, like you knew that little nugget about Mara. Before anybody that I meet with, I always do a little research.
Mm-hmm.
Always. Because when you can have those personal conversations and they know that you're truly tapped in, even outside of the business,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like little personal, you
Right.
know,
Like, oh, you have a pug. I have a poodle. Blah, blah, blah.
yes. People's dogs and animals are like their children.
Yes.
Well, especially if some major event has happened. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad to see you here. My condolences about the loss of such
Yes.
or
Yes.
I heard through the grapevine that they're talking about potentially not bringing it back for season 2. Are they crazy? Like, just what?
That part, especially when something is struggling.
Yeah.
Like I tell my creatives too, don't just network and stay up with people when they're flourishing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Reach
I'm
out
one of-
when they've lost the job, when their show has been
Yep.
canceled, when they've been laid off, when they've had a loss, when they need people the most, when people rarely show up.
Right. I have a mentor whose show was pulled, and I saw it in the trades because I personally set Google alerts for all of my mentors and people that I'm semi-stalking. And so whenever that Google alert comes through and it's like such and such, I'm like, oh, let me look. Hey, just checking in. It's been a minute, hope that you're well. I saw that they were talking about potentially not returning for the new season. I don't know what's wrong with them, but
Yeah, that was my favorite show. It was this, that,
or I didn't get a chance to really dive in yet, but let me dig in before it's whatever.
Yes.
And be honest. Don't be like that's my favorite show and you ain't never seen an episode. Because then you ask you a question that you can't answer and now you look like a liar.
That part.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm easy to say life has been life.
Now you're just trying to work them.
Right.
Right.
Like,
your snake oil.
I'm
Transactions
honest. Life
again.
has been lifing and I've not had a chance to have any personal enjoyable watch time, but I cannot wait to dig in and I will do it before so that when the finale hits I can text you and tell you how much I loved it. Whatever.
100%. And if you do that on social media, you really can, if you can't get to
yourself
festivals, the social media is free, but it might cost you to travel to a film festival. You may not even know what a film festival is all about, but you can get to them on social media. And so it's just all about being their cheerleader. And after a while, but before you do all of that, make sure that your social media is in check. So when they come over to see your page, because they will
ain't say nothing crazy about them people.
You ain't saying nothing crazy. You're not doing nothing crazy. And you're walking the walk of whatever it is you're trying to do with them. They can see evidence of that. If you're like, I've always wanted to, make movies, but all they see on your page is selfies. It's like, well, how come you're not making movies? You can make movies. They're not gonna even have a conversation with you, really.
You know what?
You didn't if I can't look at your social and tell what you do, then something's wrong.
Yeah.
I gave someone some advice a couple of weeks ago on Threads because they said they wanted to start submitting to more film festivals so they can get a wider audience. So first thing I do is I'm gonna check your socials because I want to see what you're doing and who you are. Yeah. And I go on the film page and it's like, where's Waldo? Looking for your film stuff.
Yeah. Not where's Waldo. I hate
that. So I go back and I'm like, here's a couple of tips. What you need to do is before you start submitting to film, because this is what I said. I said, before you start submitting to film festivals to expand your audience, you must have an audience first. So you're not posting. I don't see anything on your page about the fact that you make films. So then they come back and say, well, my IG is linked to such and such, and they had a film page, still not posting. So I said, well, I recommend that you switch your personal page out, connect your film page to this. So when you're on here talking about film, Because when I see somebody talk about film, the first thing I do after I scroll is I click their links. That is the first thing I do. So I said, switch that out and put your film page there so that when people see you talking about film and they
That's
start
right.
digging,
Absolutely.
when they
Floyd.
go to this one, oh, well, it's cool. I said, well, you know what? You do you, bruh. But you're going to spend all of
That's
this money. You spend all this money on
yeah.
submitting to these film festivals. So my question to you is this. What's going to happen if your film gets selected? Who's going to come see it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because you still don't have an audience
Right.
because you're
Yeah.
not engaging.
Right.
You're not engaging with these people. So with that, let me ask you this, Donna Marie.
Mm-hmm.
Getting out of your own way and listening to experienced people who can further your career. How do you impart that to a creative that you're working with or maybe mentoring who may be saying, I am digging 10 toes down in what I'm doing? But with you having years of experience, major television shows under your belt, developing and all of this, but they're still saying, no, I think I'm gonna do it my way. How do you get to them if you can and have them get out of their own way?
I used to damn near get on my knees and beg, please, like you're doing it, like if you just do this one thing. But I don't do that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
It's either you get it or you don't. And that happened with the show that I sold to HBO. We kept getting the same notes, but even before we went out, I kept telling this creative about this particular note and that they're going to get this note in the room. I'm a buyer. I'm fresh off the buyer side. I know exactly what they're looking for. If we don't address this note, we're not going to sell this show. Every room we got in, we got called out on that note. Now I feel crazy because a lot of these people know me and they know I know better. But they dug in. But no, this is the, this. They just don't get it. This is what I see. This is what I. But I'm like, but this is the lead character. If I'm not getting it and saying that there's not enough there, and they're not getting it and telling you there's not enough there,
There's not enough there.
not enough there. It's not enough there. What are
And
you
then
holding
you
on
tell
to?
yourself.
Like, tell me what you're holding on to. Maybe we can take that and flesh it out, and we would take it. And so, well, I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole on that, but I'll just say that when I was going through that, and I met with my old colleague at ABC, she was at the time SVP of comedy. And I said, what happens when you get to that point and you're so close to selling? If this one thing can be adjusted, like sometimes I just want to take over and write it. She was like, don't ever do that.
mm,
If you can't tell them how to do it and they can't execute it, then it's not going to get done. Don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, but then what if that hurts the sale? And she's like, don't do it. Don't ever do that. If they don't get it, then they just don't get it. And so that's kind of like the conversations that I have to have, but I also have to be sensitive to the fact, and this is a conversation I had to have with myself because I had a disagreement with the creative and I just wanted to be like, but why don't you get it? I'm trying to like give you game. Why don't you get it? And I had to, like, it's so crazy, but the movie Stand By Me came in my mind.
Mm.
And I thought about how those principals and coaches in those movies stand by those students when they don't get it, when the student is bucking against what the principal's saying, what the coach is saying, but they hang in there with them because they know they're going through stuff and they haven't been to that level of playing field before. So it then becomes a question to me of, okay, why am I doing this?
Mm.
Am I doing this because I want to hear myself talk, how smart I am? Or am I doing this because I really want this creative to get it and to not just win with this particular project, but rooms, period, going forward? And so I had to find a way to sit back and look at that person as an individual. I already know that not everyone's equipped. I created and developed a program with NBC, and that's one of the things that I'm working on right now. And it's to help creatives prepare for network pitches because you're not exposed to that. You don't know what
Right.
to do. How would you ever know what to do if someone from the inside doesn't sit you down and give you the game or share it with you? So when I was at the network, I remember saying to my boss at the time, because everyone coming in pitching was white, and I know a lot of black creators. I was like, "Where are all the black and brown creatives?" And it wasn't like you guys are. I was truly curious, what is going on? And two things I learned: people bring in who they know. They bring in their
Yep.
friends. They bring in who they know. They ain't being racist. Maybe they don't know no black people. This is the people who they work with. These are the people who they worked out with in the fields. They've done shows. Maybe when they were on the other side and needed work, and these people were at the network or buying position, they bought their show. They're doing each other a favor. Never know what goes on. And so if you don't know these things, that all you know is Hollywood is trying to take my shit. Hollywood's trying to whitewash my show. They don't get it and they just want to do this. And then all the stuff that you've heard is in your head. And then now you don't even trust me.
Right.
So with this particular deal, the network brought me in to work and develop these creatives to get them ready for these pitches. And it's been wonderful seeing them get it, seeing them understand. I'm actually like, they're team you. I'm team you. Some things you got to let go because they don't matter at this stage of the game. Now it's big business, big money, big business. So even if it doesn't make sense to you, trust me. And then I can explain things to you later in the back channel. But right now, while we at the table, we got to walk that walk.
Right.
You nodding at everything. You
Mhm.
nodding at everything. You nodding at everything. And you writing fast. And not only that, by the time we meet again, all these notes are going to be addressed. They didn't even ask for it. But you're going to do that. You're going to be proactive in everything, every situation. So when you show up, they know, oh, we ain't got to worry about them. They ain't got time to babysit you on a show. They got a million other shows that they got to worry about. The ones on the air, the ones they trying to get on the air that they didn't already buy. So they don't want to have to handhold. So they need someone on the team that understands the language, walks the walk, talks the talk, and manage the creatives who haven't been there. But if you don't have someone on the team like that, and you just straight up well, first of all, you may not even get a pitch if you don't have anyone that's seasoned on your team to help you be a liaison between the network or the studio and the creative team.
Mm-hmm.
So what I've been able to do is get them to see, like, not many people make it here. So what we have to do is, like, while we're here, really give them what they want. Really, like, what are they trying to do? What are they looking to do? What shows are doing well? What would be a great companion? How do we, And so these creatives have just been so great to get that and to understand that, and it's been a learning lesson for me too, to like really practice patience, because I'm a pretty strong person. I'm as sensitive as I am strong. Don't let this smile fool you, and so I have to choke a lot of stuff down because I understand they don't get it. And it's my job to help them get it, whether I'm a paid, creative to help them get it, or if it's something that I'm just doing on my own. Before it was like, so at ABC, when she was like, I don't know any, I started bringing them in. Even when the ideas didn't fit, because I wanted them to have that practice. What is it like to pitch a major network? But you know what happened one time? Got a creative in there, got a black team in there to pitch a show. You know what they pitched? They was like, you know what you guys need? You need a dating show.
Mm.
We had The Bachelor. We had the Bachelor franchise. Like, come on, we don't need a dating show. And they
If you
started,
can't tell me what kind of dating show that fills a gap that we don't already have, then you're looking like you didn't do your homework.
they didn't even realize we had The Bachelor.
Huh?
They even realized we had The Bachelor. I'm like,
You don't even have to watch The Bachelor to know The Bachelor was on TV.
but you're
Oh,
on
Jesus.
a dating show that's like The Bachelor. So we sitting there like, is this really happening? So it's not about you and I'm selling my show. It's how do you marry your show to that brand that you're pitching? If you have your own money, then you do your own thing.
Right.
But when you're pitching to a brand, a network, a streamer, how does it fit their brand, their audience, their messaging? That's it and that's all.
Yeah.
And then who can you package it with that helps amplify that message and cut through all the noise that's out here? It's 1,001 things pulling at our attention. What's going to get my eyeballs and make me stop down and not only want to watch an episode, but make me want to binge it, make me want to talk about it, make it water cooler talk. A lot of times it's, celebrity based or social media based. Also, don't just pitch a TV show and it's just living on linear television or streamer. You better figure out a way to tie it into social media, because that's where the eyeballs are going. That's where people are watching TV now. They rarely watch regular TV anymore. TVs are cheap because no one's buying them anymore. They're watching on their phones. They're getting news on their phones. They're watching short films on their phones. They're watching short content, short series on their phones. They're watching Why the F Did I Get Married on their phones.
Baby, listen, because that was wild.
It had me locked up for a whole weekend. I was like, I'm just going to watch this one thing. And I binged. I couldn't get enough. She couldn't drop it fast enough.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So people, so what, how are you?
And you never know when your lightning is going to strike.
Yeah.
You never know when your thing is going to be lightning in a bottle.
It's true. And
that lady was on there just sharing her story because she was just stressed and releasing.
Yeah. 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 And it's something that she did all the time. She always talked to her people. She always, to Floyd's point, she always engaged her audience.
Or when you're prior
to the breakup. So they were used to her getting on, rolling up her hair, talking to them about her day on her way to the office. They were used to all of that. So when she came in with the breakup, her audience was already conditioned, but she also pulled in a new audience.
Right.
That is our job as creatives when we're out pitching and selling a show. How do you not only tell them that this is good for their existing audience, but we can get more eyeballs, we can get a new audience.
And then you also have to be mindful, because look at the young lady with Pop the Balloon. It became this Netflix thing and then it didn't. And that young lady was smart enough that she set up a deal so that she could continue her YouTube show. Because had she given over her IP,
it would have been done.
Even as EP, if it didn't fly on the network, she'd have just been out of a show, and now she got to start all over again.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And because she wasn't the host, it wasn't even leverage for her in that way. But because she was able to, and because it didn't necessarily do what they thought it was going to do, she showed them that I can give you all the ingredients, but I am the recipe.
And that is so important.
100%.
That is so important, because not everything works for everyone. But and to your point, Donna Marie, not everything works everywhere. Because it didn't work. It didn't work on Netflix because when you watch a certain thing and you change the essence of what it is, it's not that thing anymore. It's just a shell of what it was supposed to be. And that's what happened with Pop the Balloon. But we're almost up against our hour. We're a little over our hour. I just had a few more questions for you, and then we're going to talk about your Ebony Canal. But you just really gave a master class on business. So can you just really quickly speak to how important it is for creatives to have a phenomenal business mindset? Because everything that you just talked about, the one thing that kept running through my mind was when you're in these rooms and you're pitching and you're supposedly wanting to not be flexible or, whatever, someone is writing a check. So is the product that you are taking to market or selling, trying to get someone to buy, what is the importance of creatives having a phenomenal mindset so that when they go into that room, that's how they're thinking, I'm here to sell a product? Because like it or not, ladies and gentlemen, it's show business, and what you're selling is a product. And what you want the networks to do is to buy your product so they can then take it to market. So having said all of that, how do you prepare your creatives to be phenomenal business people and not just creatives?
So before we even go out to market, we're really tight on development. We've, the deck is through and through branded, and the reason why and all of that. Once we get out there, it's all strategy, and it's about mitigating risks, because you can have a great show, you can have a great concept, but if they don't believe you can pull it off, it'll never happen with them. They'll never green light it. So the strategy for me is, I always, as many relationships I have in Hollywood, and including Netflix, those are my friends over there, so not too much on them. But with all the relationships that I have, all the knowledge, all the experience, I still wouldn't go straight to a buyer and say, buy my show. I know that I still have to prove that I'm worthy of them giving me millions of dollars or whatever the budget is to pull this thing off. And it's not show favor, it's show business. So I have to prove, and I want to prove, that I have the power behind me to pull this concept off. And not only that, you don't have to worry about, you don't even have to look our way. You can stay focused on the other shows that need your attention, because we got this over here. So my thing is to partner up with a production company that has network relationships, studio relationships, because they're trusted. They've been there, done that. They already, have a relationship with that network. And so there's a shorthand there. So then once we partner, then we go out and pitch together and find the right home. But even with talent, if there's a talent, A-list talent, because I have a lot of A-list friends, if they want to be a part of it, I've learned to not immediately attach. There's a letter of intent, because, hey, I may love this particular talent, but they may not for whatever reason. Or, there might be a bevy of reasons of why they don't want to work with that particular talent. So you want to have a production company that can actually pull it off. And you want to have talent that's ready to go, that if they like the talent, and you can put them in the deck, and if they like the talent, they're ready to go. So I have my talent in my decks. And so if they're like, oh, that would be nice to get that person. Oh, that person is already aware. They're on standby. Oh, really? Yeah, they're on standby. And then you keep it casual and you keep it going. But the whole time you're not only just mitigating risk and saying, these people can help me produce this to, Emmy level, ratings bonanza level, but we have talent that's going to bring about the eyeballs too. Mm-hmm. So you're giving them a case of, it's undeniable. We have to do this show. It's on brand. They have talent that our viewers love, and then we want to get the viewers from that other show, the other thing that they was on. So that's all business. That's all strategy. It's not about just your great show, right. So that's when you have to get out of the way and let business prevail.
That's awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, as I said earlier, pen, pad, I hope you brought both, because you were given a master class today. Normally I talk a lot more, but I've been a lot more quiet this episode because these two ladies have just they have just put it down, and I'm just sitting back like, okay, I'm just letting the Rolodex go, because listen, if you haven't learned anything today, there's something very wrong. I just don't understand it. But you also have the opportunity to listen to this again. And I always encourage anyone that has watched this to watch it 2, 3, 4, 5 times, not because you're trying to get my algorithm to go anywhere, but because I want you to soak up as much of this knowledge as you possibly can, because as has been shown today, this is a business. And when you have someone like Donna Marie sitting in front of you telling you the game of the business, it's something that you definitely want to reference. But before we go, I want to talk about the Ebony Canal, if you're able to, and your award that you guys won
Which
for the
one?
short.
Because they have several.
Yeah, they have. So
You must know that they have several for this piece.
Can we talk about that?
Award?
Oh my gosh. Well, let me just give it up for Ime Alaquiva, because this project came about in Clubhouse. He started working on this in Clubhouse. So it's been that long.
Wow.
It's been that long. Yeah. And he's just been slowly but surely chipping away as he's been working on other things. And on the talent end, when he was looking to, for a voice to narrate it, he had a list and he said, "Can you get to people on this list?" And I said, "I got you." And I reached out to my boy, Jonathan Mouton, which I want to mention something about him. But I reached out to Jonathan Mouton, who's now working with talent over at TV1, and said, "Hey, what can you do with this list?" And he went to work, and we got Viola, for it. So she came on board. But just what I love most about this project is that here is a Black man fighting for birthrights for Black women and the health, maternal health for these women. And it's just beautiful. It's been a beautiful journey. Just to see him and these moms, the different journeys of the moms. Some, their babies made it and some didn't. But to see them all be courageous and be celebrated together has just been, it's just been amazing. So yeah, I'm grateful. Yeah, I have to say for Jonathan, who was just really amazing on the talent. I met Jonathan when I was looking for an assistant when I was brought over to Steve's to head up his production company here in LA. And I'd already had somebody. I'm going to do this story real quick because I think it's important. I already had someone that I had been courting for a year. I knew I wanted it to be a guy. I always worked with women, mentored a lot of women. This time I wanted it to be a guy. And I wanted someone that had production and network experience. Hard to find, young assistant with network and production experience, but I had one. And then this kid just came out of nowhere and hit me on Facebook and was like, "Hey, I hear you're looking for an assistant." And, he gives me his story and tells me that he's a cancer survivor. And I'm like, wow, how did he even know that I'm looking? Like, I didn't post it. Like, how did he know? And it was on a Friday, and I just wanted to reward him for like his hustle. He found me and, reached out and was, gave a really good pitch. So I said, "I'm going to turn your stuff over to HR and we're going to set up a meeting." They set up a meeting with him on that Monday. He came in and within 20 minutes, I'm like, "I like this kid. Something about him, I like him." And the more he talked, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I think this might be the one." So, but I wasn't sure because here's this other kid that I've met with multiple times. I'm really thinking this is the one. And then Jonathan comes out of nowhere. And so I went to their social media pages because I didn't know who's really walking the walk of what they say and who they say they are. And one, his page was good, but you saw him doing college stuff, he's with his boys, at some parties, they were out. You saw some production stuff, but not a lot. But he would look like he was like wild and crazy guy outside of work, which is fine. Nothing offensive. Then I went to Jonathan's page and it was just full of love and family values, and then him practicing his craft. And I saw everything I wanted to see. And it was almost like too good to be true. And so just to make a very long story short, his presence on his social media is what did it for me, because and I went down, deep down the timeline, made sure he just didn't clean up the top. And he seemed to be a person of integrity, a person that I can trust. And when you're working with an assistant and when you're trying to break into the business, those are two qualities that you really need. And so make sure that if nothing more, even if you don't have the experience to load your social media pages up with your experience and look at what I'm doing, be a good person. Let them see that you're a decent person to be around, that you're a trustworthy person to be around. In the comments, people respect you, they trust you. You know, when you're out in the world, it's you can't take a lot of that stuff back. People are pulling up tweets and things from years ago. That's why Snoop is in trouble. Snoop was like, the first,
Hmm.
I'm getting on the first person that danced for that dude, and then he danced for that dude, and that tweet haunted him. So
And
you have to be able to, you know, really represent yourself in a way that people want to be around. And even if, because there's been times where we, as a buyer on the buyer side, we didn't even want the show, but we wanted
Mm.
to work with those people. We wanted
mm,
to figure something out with them because they're just so cool. They always come in with a great pitch. They always entertain us. They always do something fun and funny and take us out of our serious heads. And we're not fearful for just a little while. We're not thinking about our jobs. We're not thinking about the ratings. We're not thinking about we just got yelled at because this show is not working or whatever. They just entertained us for a minute. They just took, and we like these people. We want to see them win. It was a joy because we used to get the calls on Friday, to get on the phones on a Friday and call the producer after they pitch and say, we're going to do this show.
Mm.
We're just as excited as they are. But then one time I had to call and say, we're going to cancel this show.
Mm.
mm.
And listen, I had the spiel all in my head, and they had to end up consoling me. I was crying. I was like, because I
Oh,
like when I was a producer friendly network executive. So I've been out in the field. I know what it's like. So when the network would say no, I would help them fight for the things that they wanted, but in a way that satisfied both. So, for instance, on a show that I worked on called Extreme Weight Loss, one of the weight loss participants, he kept sneaking off out of the gym, and so the weight loss trainer Chris Powell was like, "Where does this guy keep going?" And we realized, like, cameras went around. He was sneaking in the back smoking, like
Mm.
he would go coming out of the gym smoking. And so we put that in the episode, and before it goes on the air, business standards and practices has to watch it and make sure ain't nothing in it that's going to get the network in trouble. And he was like, that's going to get the network in trouble. We can't show smoking on. So I take the notes back to the producers. Sorry, guys, business standard and practices, we can't, you got to take that out. But they fought for it. And so what I would always tell them, well, you guys know, if you fight and put up a big enough case that I can take back and help you fight, I'll do it. But if I don't buy into your argument, then I'm going to have to side with them. But I would always give them a chance to convince me of why you need it. And he convinced me. And what I arrived at was, that's a very real thing. I used to work out free weights when I was in my 20s. And I used to be a smoker. So I couldn't wait to get out of there sometimes to go smoke a cigarette when I smoked. That's a very real thing.
Mhm.
So when you're showing reality, I was always heavy on the reality. I don't want anything manufactured. That's real. He want to smoke. That's what he. So I take the case back, and also the business part of it is, when my boss hired me at ABC, the first question I asked her in the when I on day one was, who do we need to make relationships with to get done what we need to do?
Mm.
And those are the people that I made relationships with. Business standards and practice and legal, I always make friends with them. One, I just love their minds. So I love shaking them up and having fun with them. So those are my guys. But also, you want them to like you, because when you're in an argument, and they could go either way, a lot of times they'll go this way because they like you. And so I presented the case to them, and they were like, okay, we can allow you to do it, but he can, I forget what it was. He can either inhale, but we can't show him exhale, or vice versa. One or the other.
I think it's you can't show him exhale.
Okay, it was one or the other. Yeah. And then we had to have a confessional of Chris, the trainer, saying how we don't endorse smoking, you're not supposed to do it, blah blah blah. And we shot that. And we were able to keep it in. And that was the first time ABC had anyone on camera smoking in 50 years. 50 years. So it's a matter of being able to pivot, being able to fight for your show, being diplomatic, and knowing when to apply it. And when you're dealing with the network, you always want to be, because you don't know where the note is coming from and why they're giving it to you. But I can guarantee it's not because they just want to be an asshole. That came from the top. Sometimes they don't know how to give the message, just like they don't know how to pitch your show all the time. But the message is coming from somewhere. The fear is coming from somewhere. And if you don't give them enough that they can be proud, like, I cannot wait to show you this pitch. You're gonna think they're internally pitching your show, but they're not even pitching your show. They're not gonna even touch it because they don't want to seem like they can't pitch. So when I put even my emails, I put it together to where like they ain't even got to sell the show. All they got to do is just say, I heard the best pitch here. Check it out. And everything is there. They ain't got to say nothing. Matter of fact, I don't want you to say anything because you're gonna mess it up.
Nah, that part.
I don't want you to say nothing. Just forward it.
That part.
And so you have to set them up for success and know that internally they're selling it and branding it for the network. And then they have to get that team internally excited because let's say they buy the show. If it's not marketed properly, nobody sees it and then it goes away. So then you're constantly, you're at the table in these meetings at the network and you're sitting in there with business standards and practices, with marketing, with PR. And you're pitching them this show, trying to get them excited so that they can start thinking of a marketing campaign that they're excited about. If you're like, oh yeah, I got this show and it just, well, they ain't getting excited about that. So now they're not excited about, not only are they not excited about making your promos, they're not going to put your promo during the NFL games, during the playoffs, during the Oscars, during the Super Bowl. It'll never see that because they ain't excited about it.
Yeah.
So how hyped do you want them to be about your show? You have to constantly give them things to be excited about. This is why the show needs to be made. This is how you can pitch it when you go into this meeting. People don't know that though.
Floyd, we're gonna have her back.
Oh, say less.
Because it's just we just, I mean, there's still so much that she hasn't even like blessed us with, and we are like almost 30 minutes over.
Oh wow.
No, this is good.
I do want to say just super quick right now.
Take your time, girl. Take your time.
Well, just this, I'll just leave you with this. I have a documentary out. It's called I Am Holy Gabbana. And it's the first project that I executive produced and brought a substantial amount of dollars to it, and it's live on Amazon Prime right now. So you can go on my Instagram and there's a link in my bio and all of that stuff where you can click on it and go and support. But these young filmmakers came to me out of Atlanta, and one I was mentoring, and she would always bring different projects to me. And this particular one, she said, these producers trusted me to get this documentary together. I've done that, but I don't know what to do now. I need to find a distributor. I don't know next steps. I don't know what to do. Can you support me in this journey? And at the time, Email Aquiva sent in our text chain a grant opportunity that NBC Comcast had going, where they were offering $100,000 plus distribution opportunity for a project that was unfinished. And when they showed it to me, I was like, even though I had other projects that I could have submitted, I was like, this one is perfect. Like, this one is going to win the money. This one is going to get the bag. And it actually did. So, it was my first foray into executive producing on that level. And so I'm pretty proud of it because I don't know if you guys are familiar with Boot Gang, but he was huge on social media, turned it out in not the best way, and had a lot of followers doing a lot of negative things.
Mm,
And he got locked up and got introduced to God. And
mm,
it changed his life and it changed his walk. And so now that's what his journey is about. He lost millions of followers, when he started following Christ and not evil. And that goes back to when I ask creatives, what do you want to say in the world? What do you
hmm
want to do? Like you're making this show, but what is it for? Who do you want it to touch? And that's what I want to do with every project. I want to lift a voice that is buried, that's forgotten, that's an underdog, that no one cares about, and give it a platform, give it a light. Those are the stories, where you see like triumph over tragedy and resilience rising over all. I love those stories. And so when she pitched this to me, it was a no-brainer. So it just went live on Amazon Prime. So you guys check it out. I am Holy Cabana.
Yeah, I saw the previews for that, and it looks so interesting because you see these young people and older people chasing a thing, and what are you chasing? What are you chasing? And it's interesting because I talk, me and my wife talk a lot, and when people say, "I want his or her life," do you really know what you're asking for?
That part.
Right.
Do
Most
you know what
times
you're
you're
asking
not.
for?
Good
Right.
point.
You don't know what you're asking for.
Good.
Oh, they got this, they got that. And this, people such as him and other people that seemingly have it all are sitting in a room at night with the lights off crying
Yes.
because they're empty.
And that's what he talks about. He
Mhm.
actually said that was so depressing to him to have all this fame and recognition. And he was broke in his
Mhm.
pockets and on the inside, you know? And so then you're chasing the fame, trying to keep up with the image that other people have in their mind of who you are. And that's really not who you are,
Mhm.
And so he was driven by drugs and fame and likes on social media and the following, just like a lot of the youth is.
Mhm.
And that's where I feel we really need to be reached the most as a culture, because that's what we're consuming the most. And it's so much on there that's negative. And so if I can shed any sort of light on the good and the bad of social media, I do it. So the good part is you can get to anybody that you want. You can build a relationship with anybody that you want. The bad part is that you can get caught up in thinking that you have to be this image in this certain way or keep up with an image that somebody else has, and they're not even living that image.
Mhm.
And I can tell you this through and through. Like, I mean, I see it every day. Every day. People who are the most admired and they're the most depressed.
Mhm.
The most depressed. In their therapist's office all the time. And you're just thinking, I want their life so bad. God, how come you're not doing it for me? But
You're being protected.
you're actually happier
Mhm.
than they are. And they got everything.
Yeah.
And they
And I,
want your life.
yeah. And I know we're about to get out of here, but it's so interesting because Gary Vaynerchuk, I don't know if you're familiar with him, but Gary Vaynerchuk talks about that a lot. He
Mm,
talks about all the multi-millionaire, billionaire friends that he has. They're miserable.
yeah.
Then he says, but the guy making $80,000 a year with the wife, the kids, living their best life, they're happy.
Yeah.
So don't get caught up in, let's take this for example. There's a gentleman that owns that other platform, and he's the richest man in the world. And you've seen a lot of things come out about him lately, the excessive abuse of substances and things like that, and you would think that someone with so much wouldn't be self-medicating to that extent. And that just goes to show you, as they so often say, that money and the material things don't make you happy. What is your spiritual walk like? What is your spiritual walk like? Because you can have so much and be so empty. I'm a follower of Jesus Christ, proudly proclaim it, but what what are you filling yourself with spiritually, and especially in this business, because you can get so caught up in the exterior, and your interior suffers. So I hope people definitely take a look at your documentary. Can you say the name of it again so
Yes.
people will know what it is and where to find it?
Yes. I am Holy Gabbana on Amazon Prime.
Make sure you go watch it. I am definitely going to check it out.
Good.
Okima, any parting remarks? But before that, Donna Marie-Reid, where can people find you?
I was about to ask.
Thank you. On socials, DM's Place. So DM for Donna Marie, DM's Place on socials. My website is undeniablefilms.com. And my foundation is lovealways.ma. So, and the foundation itself is lovemafoundation.org. So, firing off on all sectors, whether it's entertainment or nonprofit. I'm keeping the balls juggling and in the air. It's hard not to drop them, but I'm keeping them in the air pretty well.
Okima, any parting words before we say goodnight?
I just want to say this has been so good and so fun, but also so masterful and informative. And I know that our viewers, those that are watching in real time, and especially those that will watch it back, will glean so much from what you've shared and what you've given. So thank you for being a willing vessel. Some people are a vessel, some people are a siphon. So thank you for being a willing vessel to give to others the information that A, costs thousands of dollars in consultation fees, but B, that will help them be ready to come into whether it's your room or anyone else's. And also just kudos and congratulations to you on all that you've accomplished thus far, all that you're striving for next. We want to make sure that you know you have a home here at Conversation With. We are here to support whatever you have going on in whatever ways we are able. And don't be surprised when I'm up in your inbox like, hey, mentor in my head.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to have continued conversations with you. I think you're great, knowledgeable, experienced, and yeah, we could have some great conversations. I'm sure we can learn from each other.
I'm always looking for wonderful, especially I learn from everyone. I learn from Floyd every show.
Oh yeah, Floyd is.
So,
Well,
like,
I don't do lives, but I did do it for Floyd.
Well, thank you so much. I
we
truly
appreciate
appreciate that. That's relationships, ladies and gentlemen.
That's
right.
it.
Cultivate
That's
them and take care
relationships.
of them. And so no, we say again, if there's any way that the show or Floyd or I or Floyd and I respectively can support or help or give a hand or whatever, please don't hesitate to reach out. And we thank you so much for everything that you shared with us today.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we
Thanks
had
for having me.
Yeah, this has been absolutely amazing. You are definitely going to have to come back, but I'm just going to read a couple of comments before we go. Monique Horton said, sitting here soaking up everything. I'm an actor and I'm mining those things most relevant to me, and they all are. Thank you so much, Donna Marie, Okima, and Floyd. Blessings. Pembroke Taparelli Arts and Film Festival. I really enjoyed this episode. It was very informative and I learned quite a bit. A lot of this resonated with me and recognized some of the missteps that I've made as a young creative. Thank you for sharing your vast knowledge. It's all about learning, ladies and gentlemen. But again, thank you so much, Donna Marie, for coming on the show and gracing us with your presence. It's just an honor to call you a friend and to have you.
We love our Floyd.
It's such an honor to have you here. And get a little emotional, but it's just an honor to have you here, and it's an honor to call you my friend. So, ladies and gentlemen, make sure that you follow Miss Donna Marie-Reid. Make sure that you check out her documentary. Make sure that you check out everything that she's doing, because she is doing some absolutely amazing things. Make sure that you follow the podcast, because we want to bring you people like Donna Marie-Reid, because again, as Okima said, if you were to do a consultation session with everything that you've learned today, you'd have had to write a nice substantial check.
That
So
part.
we are so happy to have been able to bring you so much phenomenal knowledge. And again, I hope you had a pen. I hope you had a pad, because we have learned so much today, and we have learned things that you can immediately incorporate into what it is you're doing, so that you can show up as the best version of yourself when you get the opportunity to go into that room.
Yeah.
So, on that note, thank you so much to my amazing
Thank you
co-host
guys for
Okima
having
T. Moore. Thank you so much to the amazing, incomparable Donna Marie-Reid.
Burr,
Ladies and
burr, burr,
gentlemen,
burr.
thank you so much for joining myself and these two
Thank you.
amazing ladies on a conversation with my wife. Don't let me hang out with too many women, but
I have
but
cleared the customs.
yes. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining myself and these two amazing women on a conversation with. And as always,
Stay
love it like
still,
a
Donna.
hobby, but treat it like a business. And on that note, everyone have an absolutely amazing night. Peace.
Yes. Wait, you know we gotta take
Oh,
our
we got to
picture.
do the picture.
Oh,
Oh no, she left.
she left.
She left. Oh my gosh.
It's
And we can't
okay.
get her back.
We had
Yeah.
her for a while.
Yeah.
It's okay. We'll steal it from the screen grab. Oh, that's what I forgot to ask you. Did you turn us off?
Ooh.